Alright, DDK, we're here at the major, the first British major. How do you think it went?
I think it went really well. Obviously, I think in the new Legends, the new Champions stage, at the very first week of Twickenham, there's obviously some technical difficulties, but obviously some stuff on Valve's end and various other legally issues. But once that was played up, I think after the first few days, everything since then has been completely smooth. So from that perspective, technically, from the broadcast perspective, I think it went really, really well. As far as like the games and so on, I think we didn't have the most super spectacular games, but I think the crowd were fantastic. They had an amazing time, and that's all that really matters. And I think it's so fun that London gets Counter-Strike, because we've been wanting it to happen for so long. We've been building Wembley, let's face it, for so long, and finally they're able to bring a major here. So I think it's just great to see everyone who's, because the British fans, they just appreciate it so much. I think because they were starved of it for so long. So I think it's been fantastic.
You mentioned about sort of the new Legend stage and how it's like a 3-week major. Do you think that's benefited the sort of major format where they've completely shaken it up?
I think the 3-week format is I think extending it as much as you can is really good, especially having the players in the same spot for as long as possible, so everyone's effectively in boot camp mode. I think it's really cool, as opposed to just flying people in and having them there just for a few days. And obviously that may have that was a talking point, because you had the old Legend teams coming in against teams that had already been there for a week, and those teams that had been there for a week were like very warm, like really in the zone, already very used to the setup. So I think in the ideal world, you would actually block it out for 3 weeks, just flying all the teams, and that would be a perfect world. But I think it went pretty smoothly. I think obviously there had been some criticisms on the format itself, but I think I liked it. I think it went well.
You played in a show match. You actually put in work, considering it's been a while. Would you ever play more show matches? You want to prove your worth again?
I think it's always fun to play. I've always been playing esports games for a very, very long time. Obviously, in the past I was sort of on the top level in Quake, and so played lots of tournaments there, and I really miss competing, and Counter-Strike was always a fun thing I played on the side. I mean, I played since the first beta of Counter-Strike, it's just always such a pleasure to play. And so, when it was quite last minute when they asked me, I hadn't played in a long time, so I was very surprised that I was just walking around and just shooting people and they were dying. I was just it just kind of worked out, so that's good. It's a lot of fun. I would absolutely play as much as, if someone asked me, I'd just say yes immediately.
You and James, how long have you known each other?
I knew James kind of before he knew me a little bit, because I used to play a lot of fighting games, and I was into fighting games a lot, and I'd watch his streams. He produced like a very, very funny stream that was actually, it was based in the HMV Gamer base at the time in London, and that was always really fun. They had some of the best European competition, at least the best competition of the UK, and you'd always hear James just being sort of like the angry dad as he was producing the show, and he would just tell his commentators off for leaving their phones or drinks in places where they shouldn't, and just telling them off for swearing and stuff, and so I kind of it's a very funny stream. I watched that for a couple of years, and then we moved CS with FACEIT into London, and I was like, hey, this guy produces, we could get him to produce our shows. And we found out that he was actually a Counter-Strike nerd, and he wanted to commentate, and then one thing led to another, and so I've known him effectively for 4 years. I think almost 4 years now, I think.
Wonderful. Lastly, who's your biggest surprise and who's your biggest disappointment at the major?
Interesting. Biggest surprise might be Complexity. I don't think anybody expected them to make the playoffs. I think they've done it with a great approach and a good attention to detail, and the hard work. And it's great to see, even with the storyline of the new guard replacing the old, that you do have some of the guiding veterans on that team, and some of the storylines there were just so awesome to watch. I think the biggest disappointment for me has actually been Swedish Counter-Strike, because we expect so much from them, and obviously when you had one Swedish player in the playoffs of a major, that's something is going on. And Europe isn't UNA in that sense, right? So I think some real differences need to be made in that scene. I think we do need to really see a lot of the new blood coming through to replace some of the old ways, which I think have stagnated in the culture of Swedish Counter-Strike. And so I think that's been the most disappointing thing for me.
Brilliant. Thank you so much for speaking to us.
Thank you very much. Cheers.
Thank you.